One thing, oof. Put me on the spot, AD. Come on now. I would say, I mean, first thing that comes to mind is definitely young. Definitely young. I moved to, yeah,
Wow. I think now that you have mentioned that we actually have come a very long way being dependent and then now asking for help somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
French.
People.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Curry Meets Croissant. And well, I realized one thing. I just realized that in the last two episodes, I did not introduce you to myself. Well, I did in the initial beginning of the podcast when I did the introduction, just to say what the podcast is all about. But I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna carry forward for the from this episode to next episode and through the episodes coming on. So I'm your host, Amruta Das, and this is the platform Curry Meets Croissant, and this is episode number 4. So I'm really excited about it. And today we have a really, really special guest because he's my senior. And we did one semester together, and he is currently an alumni right now. And yeah, we had great times. We had an international trip in December to Germany where we had a great time. We had great networking events over there. And why this person is so special? Because he has his own label called OAL Entertainment, based in USA, and he's the co-founder of that label. And he generally manages, the beats and the books together, so that is really fun. Well, it's a really special episode for me because he's my dear friend, and I'm really excited to interview him and share this platform and get to know him in a different, way. So our guest today is Jeffrey, and he's a really funny guy. Well, he's the man of the world, and why do I say this? Because his roots are from Angola, which is in Africa, and then he was born in USA. He did his bachelor's from London, and then he did his master's from France in Paris. And of course, he has been like to 4 different countries, and this is insane. And also, he was one of the famous guys in South Africa when he had a international trip to South Africa from the same college that I am in. So, welcome, Jeffrey, to Curry Meets Croissant, and I'm really happy that you made time to do this episode. And yeah, please tell me how you are. How have you been?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. First and foremost, I've been good. I've been good. No complaints. Uh, yeah, I've been good. It's been a
So,
while since I podcast, so I'll get more comfortable as time progresses, but it's been a while.
okay. So, because today you are our guest, and we named the episode as Balancing Beats and Books. Why? Because you know it, because you're the co-founder of a label called OAL Entertainment. So, can you tell us how did you start the journey? How did you manage studies and your label?
Yeah, so just watching a lot of documentaries at the time, and essentially for the longest time, I've always, you know, listened to music, been around music in terms of like hearing inside the household from my siblings, my parents, and just also watching a lot of documentaries, even at that time, behind the scenes of the industry, music industry, and everything. And at that time, I was watching a documentary, I, I believe I'm mistaken, it's Hip Hop Evolution. I, to my memory, that's the title of the documentary on Netflix. And it was just very insightful and um, just a lot of topics at hand. And just, I don't know, I guess at the time it was just, like I said, I watched so many documentaries over the years. But at that time, that particular time when I was watching that documentary and just feeling inspired, and also just from years removed, like I would say 4 years prior to that, I've always thought about like starting a business with my friends. So I guess with that in mind, and also watching the documentary at that time and COVID and everything and other factors as well at hand, I just a light bulb struck, and I was thinking, okay, why not Why not create a business that just so happens to be a record label? Would it be far-fetched? I didn't think so. I still don't think so at the time because I've always known or been in the know-how of the music industry. Even though I wasn't inside the music industry, I always had an idea of what comes with it, and I knew people as well, knew artists. I knew artists. I wouldn't say I knew managers, but I did know like artists and I did know other aspects. And I've met people, I've come across people that have been in the industry in some shape or form. So yeah, I just thought about that and then also just thought about okay, if I were to do it, as crazy as it might sound, I need a team, of course. So of course I people that came to mind, the first people came to mind were my friends that I wanted to do with in general. So
Mhm.
I just started reaching out to my close friends that I thought would be suit for that, for the idea and to execute the plan as best as we could at that time, and of course in the long run. And yeah, that's how the idea came about, and how I believe you asked me how I managed.
Yes.
Um, so sorry for the long answer, guys. Back at home, just it
No,
takes
no,
some
you're on
time.
the right path. You were saying that you know how you started, and then now you're gonna say how you
Uh,
managed, how you balanced your label and your studies.
Yes. So how I balanced it, of course, I would have to shout out my team, my partners, because they've helped me. They've helped me, of course, when times when I've slacked or we've helped each other, being each other's crutches, as they say. Because one person can't do everything by themselves. So when you have a team, it works, and I'm grateful for them for helping me out and us, of course, helping each other out, but them helping me out, balancing studying as well. Because I believe all of us actually met in high school, funny enough, in boarding school. So we're all in the same phase of our lives. So we could all relate to each other, not only based off of like, of course, knowing each other and having that chemistry, but also like what we were also going through at the time,
Yeah.
university, so working or having part-time jobs and everything like that. So having that understanding with each other, that definitely helps. So yeah, them and balancing just I would say just, you know, what do you call it? Trial and error, really. Because until you do something, you never really know how it feels and how it can be done. So it's just really trying it and then taking it as it goes and just learning from other people as well. Learning from other people. I try my best to always, back then when I started and even now, just always take a bit of knowledge and insight from everybody that I come across, or even just people that I never met, from interviews, videos, and yeah. So just really try and error, my partners, my business partners, and yeah, of course, family, friends that have been with me all along the ride. Yeah.
You've come a long way, and I think it's almost everyone's dream that to start a business with their what?
So, and God, of course. Yes.
And God, of course. Yes. So I
Yeah.
think you have come a really long way starting your business in 2020 when the world was colliding and just shutting down. And you had just a idea like, the bulb just blinked for you. You're like, yeah, this is the right time to start a business with your best friend. And I think everybody has a dream to start a business with their best friends, and you're a lucky one.
Hey, when you have the chance, when you have the chance, definitely do it.
Yes, I would really, really, really be happy to do it. But what does OAL stands for?
So OAL stands for on another level, entertainment. Yes, yes, yes.
That's a
So,
great name. That's an awesome name.
took us a while to come up with it, but it worked. I make something concise, not too lengthy, not too, not much of a train smash, but just got it. So yeah, that's what it
I think
means.
that's an awesome name. And yeah, so I was saying, like, I was giving an introduction about who was the guest, and of course, it was you. And since you have been the man of the world, you have been to so many different countries. You so basically your roots are from Angola, and then you were born in USA, and then also you did your bachelor's from London, and then you were part of France and the city of love, Paris, for your master's. So how did, like, how the moving across these places actually shaped your identity and the outlook on life?
So it's a jam-packed question, but I'll
Yes.
take it this time. Yeah, okay. So I would say how it's shaped me, I would say, how would I start? I would say just because each place that you stated, I have a story within all of them. You know, all of them have its separate story, chapter, you name it. Angola, of course, both my parents being from there and me, interesting enough, not having a chance to live there, but always getting to go there, growing up almost every year. At the end of the year, I would always go there during festive season with family. Um, and then growing up actually in Namibia, that's just another place, another location. And then, of course, going back to start, born in the US, going back for high school, as you mentioned, London. Um, being born in the US, that was a short stint, so can't really speak on that. And then having a chance to go back for high school and also just having the experience that I had in boarding school, where it was an international boarding school, 700 students from all over the world.
Wow.
Uh, that in itself also is, getting a lot of knowledge through that, through the people I came across that I got to live with on a day-to-day basis for 3.5 years. And then, as you mentioned, London, um, doing my university, and that being the first time, yeah, London being the first time I lived by with my siblings, but just simply with my siblings. And so yeah, living with my siblings, my two sisters as well at that time, being the first time I did that in my life, and going to university there, living in London, what, 7 years removed from when I was supposed to go there the first time. And that in itself, of course, going to university there for 3.5 years as well. Um, Culture, living with that, experiencing the culture there on a day-to-day basis. And one thing is like, I think we'll get to that part, get to some point during this conversations interview. What I'm going to mention right now, but one thing about living abroad that I always tell people when I speak to them as well is like, there's one thing about going on vacation and when you live in a certain place,
Yes,
it's a whole completely different thing.
it's true.
Two things.
It's actually true.
I bring that up to say the reason I bring that up is because I've since 2012 I've been going to London on vacation and visiting my family, seeing friends and everything. And when I got the chance to live there in 2019 and up until 2022, um, just the you go from, of course, you can imagine the shift from, okay, visiting, having fun for, okay, now you have to, establish yourself, settle in,
Yeah.
um, sort out your insurance, medical insurance, um, open a bank account, everything like that. So, I would say I bring that up, summarize it right there, we'll leave it right there to say that in London, that was, like I said, every place has its chapter of its own, has a story of its own. So London was continue to live by myself with my siblings, with our parents. New York was living by my under without my parents, not necessarily by myself in a boarding school, first time ever. And then France, current situation, it's been master's program, completely living by myself, no parents, no siblings, as well as no friends. So that in itself also a different story of its own, and just a lot of things I could pull from. Namibia, of course, I have to go back. I didn't mention too much about Namibia. That being the longest stint I've stayed in a place. Stayed there for 11 years. I grew up there. So that in itself also has its own chapter, my childhood, uh, almost everything that I learned or that I know for the most part stems from there. How I carry myself, my foundation, my friendships, most of my friendships that are still there, that I still luckily am able to keep in contact with to this day. So yeah, just to kind of like put in a nutshell, every place in itself has its own chapter and story, and just I try to my best to take a bit of everything, a bit of something from everything.
So, what was the one biggest learning that you actually had when you were shifting to so many different places? And then you also grew up completely in New York, you had your schoolings there, and then London being a completely different culture environment, and then comes Paris, which is very different from rest of the two. So, what was the one thing that you have learned from all these places?
I would just say one that comes to mind immediately is just be yourself. I know it can be a little, cliche to say be yourself, but it's honestly speaking, I've been able to maneuver around all these cities, countries, and environments just by being myself. Don't get me wrong, of course, as time progresses, as you get older and as you shift from different places,
Yeah.
you are around people, there will be a couple adjustments, a couple changes here and there, like that will happen unconsciously. However, just having the same essence, sticking to your morals, your values, and to what you've known, your foundation. I think, everybody that has done that or continues to do that will be just fine. And that's what works for me. Even times where what's it called? Times where you can sometimes forget or sometimes, find yourself being lost or anything, like just remembering that and just reminding yourself of that, yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be
So, okay, so let's begin our segments. And yeah, I think everybody got to know like about you, about your background and how well you're doing in life right now. I think that's a really great start of a podcast. And to start with our first segment, the f- the quite like there are certain very friendly questions, like not to put you in that spot, like you have to think difficult or something. But yeah, so now that you have mentioned that you have met with so many people from various countries, can be like you said, like 700 students in New York in boarding school, and we all have that idea like how boarding schools can be. I was never a part of a boarding school, so I just have like, the outside view of the boarding school. So how did you manage then? And now how would you describe that, how were you then that time and how are you right now? Because I think there has been a lot of transitions that took place for you.
So if I heard that correctly, how was I then and
Before,
after
then,
the
and how are you now?
okay. I would say, I mean, first thing that comes to mind is definitely young. Definitely young. I moved to boarding school and back to New York, essentially, I mean, back to the US and the boarding school being in New York when I was 15 years old.
You're very young.
So young. And like yourself as well, I had a preconceived notion already about boarding school. I've seen some movies over the years.
I've seen movies, I've seen Netflix series. That's how I know.
Eh, at the time, it was like, boarding school. It never really came to mind to do it, to be honest. It never was a thought. However, when I just came to having to come to a decision about going back to the US, my options were limited. So it was either boarding school or just staying where I was at, which in this case was Namibia. So I was like, okay, my sister was already there. She had good things to say. And it's like, why not? Why not? You know, it shouldn't be that bad. It was international as well. That's the one thing that also caught my attention was international. And it was also co-ed. It wasn't just, all boys school.
Mhm.
That would uh, that would be would have been sad, not gonna lie to you. But no shade to all boys school, teach their own. But yeah,
So I think you have come a long way to maintaining that balance, you know, with
yeah,
culture.
oh yeah, for sure. And that also, besides the international, the co-ed, which something of course I've been used to, I believe that that also helped me, of course, a lot because it's like, okay, I'm not just dealing with, yeah, international students, but it's like, okay, you're also dealing, like I said before, personalities from both sides of, men and women.
Mm.
Uh, but to not defer too much from the question, I would say I was definitely young at the time, 15, never lived with anybody else besides my family, so just that shift as well. I mean, the good thing that the first 2 years, year and a half, I was with my sister, my older sister, so that also helped. Being away from our family, being away from our parents, and just having us two to ourselves, that helped. Uh, and I would say I definitely became more open-minded at
Yeah.
then I wasn't too open-minded because, you know, uh, I believe everybody you only know what you're accustomed to. Of
Yes.
course, if you get to travel, when you get to see different parts of the world, you get to meet different people, that in itself will help you to learn different things, different perspectives, and different points of view about people and life in general. So I did get to have the privilege of traveling when I was younger and everything, but it's just like I said, I touched on prior, when you have one thing is okay, get to travel, get to see different parts, but one thing is like, okay, having that interaction one on one or one on, like I said, 700 people all at once and just having that on a daily basis. So I would say having that opportunity to be in that environment definitely helped me being more open-minded. Um, where I shift from back then wasn't as open-minded, but now, of course, being more open-minded, younger. So of course, when you're younger, you make,
Yeah.
not the decisions. Uh, what else? Yeah, I think that's what comes to mind. Of course, if something else comes, I will mention it. But the things that come to mind, of course, being young, not as open-minded. Um, I was able to adapt though. I feel like that I was able to always do till now. So that also helped a lot, adapting to my environments and being myself. Like I said before, being myself. That's also helped me back then. Even though, like I said, as an individual, I've of course grown, not in just in age, but also um, in other aspects of my life, but just like um, yeah, adapting to that environment and just being myself when it was easy to always change or easy to be somebody else.
Mhm.
I just to be myself and what I knew, really. And both can correlate from past and but present, I would say um of course learning from our mistakes, learning from other people's experiences and mistakes as well and continue adapting, continue being myself. Um, what else? Ambitious. Um, being in a what else? What else? What else? What else? Yeah, nothing comes to mind. Nothing additional comes to mind. Like my mind is just like think about so many things right now. But those are things that come out right now, and then like
Many students take up jobs alongside studies. So, but you balanced a music label as well. And what were your biggest struggles that you have faced?
biggest struggles I've faced have just been time management, really. Time
Mhm.
management with studying at the time. I believe as the label was established in 2021. I graduated in 2022 and I was working. I also got my one of my jobs in 2021 as well. That lasted until 2022. So um I'm bringing this all up just for time frame wise, man. It's 2022, I graduated, so that was my last semester.
Okay.
Uh, and I was still working part-time. I shifted my schedule to part-time, of course, while I was studying full-time, my bachelor's, that is in London. And the challenges were, like I said, time management, with the scheduling, of course, of classes and scheduling of work, whether that be coming out of classes and then going to work or coming out of classes and working on assignments or presentations or studying for exams
Yeah.
that maybe don't coincide that particular day with your work schedule, but also mentally fixating on that and then shifting your focus the next day or maybe the same day um to work, and what you will be confronting at work. Because by the end of the days, as the viewers may relate to this, the ones that have had this experience, when you are studying full time, especially when you're doing a bachelor's and a master's, whatever the case may be, to be honest, you will you're a, each environment has its own um each environment, how can I put this? Each environment has its own circumstance, has its own story.
Correct.
And the people, the personnel, when you go into school, you know who you're going to confront, you know who you're going to see, the situation that you have at hand. And then when you go to work as well, work politics,
Yeah.
customer, whoever you're dealing with, like it's each environment has its own story or its own characters and
Right.
conflicts that you confront. So it's like shifting your mindset and your energy to one place going to another. It's like that also is a factor itself besides time management. Um,
Okay. So, Jeffrey, moving to our second segment. So you have moved to so many countries, and well, moving abroad can feel like a fresh start, which others think, but also like a solo mission, which we all know. So, did you ever struggle with feeling alone or unsupported?
from time to time, I would feel that, but I would say probably in my boarding school years,
Hmm.
like my sister graduated, and then some of my very close friends graduated as well. There was, I believe, my junior, if not my last year, is where I've had those moments. My last semester, yeah, I felt that, but I would say during that time period of that I was in boarding school beforehand and up until now, yeah, I felt supported. Even then, I also did feel supported, but there were times where I'm like, like it would be nice to have my siblings or my friends here, um, during these times that I'm like, having certain doubts about or certain questions about, university, because at the time that was my final semester of high school. So it's like, oh yeah, maybe having those doubts during that time period and having questions or just having that having certain people of my circle just being around. But for the most part, I would say I felt supported. I do feel supported. I do my support system, we've managed to communicate and be in communication throughout. Week in, week out. I've always managed to be in contact, and when you do have a chance to see each other as well, with you have to travel to each other's cities or vice versa. Yeah, I've definitely felt supported. So.
Yes. So if someone is listening and they feel like lost or disconnected, what is the advice that you want to give it to them?
So, if you do this position, whoever's listening, no, I would just say, like I said, your support system. Don't shy away from, speaking to them, because of course there are times where you'll find yourself where there's certain things that you want to keep for yourself, and understandably so at that particular moment, because you're trying to figure it out for yourself, still trying to figure out for yourself and trying to sort out by yourself. But if it don't wait till it gets to worst case scenario and something happens, definitely share as much as you can with your support system. See if because you'd be surprised, maybe they've been through the same thing,
Yeah.
and they can give you tips or a tip or two about your situation where you find yourself. So definitely communicating a support system, communicating with a friend that you met in that particular city or environment that you find yourself in.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think now that you have mentioned that we actually have come a very long way being dependent and then now asking for help somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Who knew we would actually ask for help? But yeah, that is new. But we are doing it. I think we're doing our best. So, moving on to another set of segment. So, like studying abroad is obviously expensive, like financially, mentally, in every way it is very expensive.
So how do I manage my finances? I would say trial and error, really. Trial and error, because one thing is when you're managing your finance with your parents beside you, and one thing is managing your finance by yourself. Um, so I would say try and error, learning from my siblings as well in the time period that I did live with my two sisters. And just I would say, yeah, trial and error, and also just seeing, of course, in that particular circumstance you find yourself in. The reason I say that because one thing is when you're in high school, and another thing is when you're in university.
Yeah,
I feel like what do you have, what's on your plate is different from both in two different scenarios, right? So
exactly.
I bring that to say like what was on my plate in high school is completely different from what I have on my plate in university and what I have it now.
Exactly.
Um, Kind of just learning, for example, in London, that was that was my biggest learning curve, I would say. That was not only because it being one of course, expensive cities out there, the currency in itself, cost of living and everything, but also just um, like I said, being in university at that time also while I was living there and learning how to juggle your interests, your day-to-day life, your necessities, toiletries, um essentials, but groceries, luckily that was sorted out through our parents. But even then, it's like making sure that doesn't like go over budget, and then also just managing, like I said, your interests. Okay, you want to go see a concert, you want to your day-to-day essentials, clothing. Okay, you might overshop. You might, like this or that. You see something that you might want to get that's a little, over the budget. So it's like making those mistakes, I would say, in London, since my first year and second year, I would say having those experiences where you find yourself being broke, money's done before the month ends. Okay, hey, put your hands on your lap and wait.
Yeah.
So just like going through those experiences, because I feel like I always say that the best teacher is experience, it's life.
Yeah, literally. That's fun in itself, but it's might be a little scary, but in general it's fun. Okay. So, moving on to next segment. And since you have been surrounded with so many languages, have How many languages do you speak now, and which one was the hardest for you to learn?
I would say three and a half, and then sprinkle with other one.
What are the languages you know how to speak?
So English, of course, Portuguese, Spanish, and then French being that half,
I
and
did
then,
not know you know Spanish.
and then the sprinkles of like I said, of other languages, Afrikaans, German words, some Russian words.
Anyways, so which was the language, which was one language was that was the hardest for you to learn? French? We both know, yeah, that was French.
Yeah, French. French. I'm not gonna lie.
Play. My God, why don't they say it like please? And it's like a big word, s'il vous plaît.
Like even that, and I could go on of so many things that could have just cut it short, but it is what it is. No, French, honestly speaking, has been the hardest of the ones. I mean, to be quite honest, out of besides Spanish, French is the only language I've also learned, like in school. So, um, yeah, Portuguese being one I've learned at home, and English, that's the one. I mean, three, sorry. English I learned I've been speaking my whole life, but I learned so learned in school up until now. And then Spanish, high school, French, university, yes. But yeah, French has been
Do you think language barriers can be a major setback for students working and studying abroad? And yeah, how did you overcome yours?
I believe it can. Like even for me, it to a certain extent it did for me, but at the same time, because I when I have this conversation with other people as well, and I get asked like, "Oh, how in terms of adapting in Paris and everything?" I always say that because I lived in London, I feel like my experience in Paris has worked out well because they're similar in various ways,
Mhm.
and because I was in those two cities without my parents, so I still had to like of course maneuver maneuver around and just being independent and everything. So certain things, don't get me wrong, it was a challenge. Like for example, the first thing that comes to mind was transportation. The good thing I would say that I did before I moved to Paris, before I even knew I was going to move to Paris, is I came to visit once a year before I moved, and I was like with what was the situation? I was in the train and I remember I had a sheet. They gave me a sheet of paper. I don't know why she didn't give me a sheet. I don't remember why, but she gave me a sheet of like what I need to do. I guess my SIM card wasn't working, so that's why as well, because I would have, of course, gone to my phone. But she gave me a sheet of paper, gave me like directions and everything. And because I'm accustomed to the London transportation and the metro, the subway, I got accustomed to see, okay, if you're in a certain line, you conduct yourself in a certain way. You know, if you have to leave this line to get to another line, you get off. You don't leave the train station completely. You just go a couple steps, go to change the line within the station and everything, and I can go on so forth. But just like having that experience in London for 3.5 years in regards to transportation, and of course the Parisian transportation kind of being similar. Of course, the lines here is number based as opposed to name based. In London, it's like name based, not really numbers. So that's only the different the thing that sets them apart. But just like having them being similar to each other was like, okay, that helped. And then I mean day-to-day things are similar wherever you are really. Of course I use London as an example because it's similar. Grocery shopping, events and just restaurants and everything else that you can think of is similar. So you just have to like kind of use what I've done is just use like what I've been through in another city, in that case being London or even New York. Now that of course I go back and forth more often now since I left. and just really apply to it. And then the only thing will just be different is just the language, really. But even then, sometimes you'll find people that are nice enough,
Yeah.
and they'll actually like try to communicate to you also in your own language in English sometimes. But sometimes you will find yourself having to speak in French, and when your word count is out, go to the translator. You know,
Yeah, true.
hey, yeah, I need some
Oh,
help.
well, I think, yeah, language barrier is actually a barrier for me as well. So, this is something new that we do it on the podcast, which is, suggesting solutions as per from your point of view, which has helped you overcome or helped you, go through certain situations and all. So, there are a couple of questions that we will address and we will try to give certain solutions from our point of view that can also help like certain people, maybe 10, it can help one people out of 10, but yeah, we definitely give solutions. If someone who's listening now currently and is overwhelmed by studies, work and life abroad, what's the first thing they should do to regain control?
Hmm. Um, what comes to mind is what I've touched on as well during this episode before, which is just remembering your purpose, really. Catching yourself and just like regrouping, refocusing on what the task at hand, the bigger picture, what got you to take this big leap in the first place, why you're doing it, your why, focus on your why, as you say, your purpose, your why, however you want to see it. Just yeah, catching yourself and just thinking about that. Even if you have to take a day, if you have to take a couple of hours just to dwell on it and regroup, refocus. And like I said, also if you have to talk to somebody, your close friends, your circle, your support system, like definitely do that as well because usually they also know what you've also been through and how far you've come, and they'll also remind you. Ideally, that's what I would recommend. Just firstly, remember why you put yourself in the situation, why you signed up, and then, speak to your support system. If you're religious, pray, ask God for guidance. Um, and yeah,
Yeah, true. I
off the head. Yeah.
I literally think my younger self would be really happy to see that I've come so far. That I was talking about this like with one of my friends, and yeah, we were discussing like what suggestions we would give. I think adulting is really hard. It's really, really hard. I didn't imagine it to be so hard.
That's mad to that too. Yes, yes.
It's like when we were kids, we always used to think that, if we just grow up quickly, I think all the problems will end. I think when we were younger, the problems were not so problematic. They were just like a piece of cake. You just eat it and it'll get over. And I think this one, it's like a whole cake. Even you can't eat it, but it's just lying there. You just have to finish it because that's how you solve problems. And yeah. I think, yeah, she will be really proud to see how far I've come.
It's great. Now, to your point about adulting, I mean, I would definitely tell my second self that, being a kid, just, I mean, that's still connected to each other of enjoying. But yeah, enjoy and take your time with everything you're involved in because growing up is not what you think it is going to be.
It's
Of course, you
not
have
what it is.
your perks of being an adult, get to go to certain places,
Exactly.
have certain experiences. However,
Life is lifing a lot.
it is a great time too. Okay, don't let nobody do the opposite. You know, other being adults are fun too, of course. It has perks, but don't rush. Let's just say, yeah, in a nutshell, don't rush getting older. Don't rush trying to, be in spaces for adults,
Yeah.
even though that's another step. But yeah, just enjoy everything that you're in, that you find yourself in every circumstance and make the most out of it, really.
True, very true. And yeah, so I think we are done, but there is one last question. So, what's next for OAL Entertainment, and where can people find and support your work?
Mm. So, link in the bio will be attached.
Yes.
Entertainment, you can find us Twitter, now X, um, Instagram,
YouTube.
TikTok, YouTube, of course, and of course the all music platforms as well. And once you find the page, you'll find a link to all everything else, basically, all the pages and all the everything you need to find us, all the platforms you need to find us on. And then I would say what's next is really just yeah, music soon, music
Is there
coming
any
soon.
album which is about to release?
Albums,
You can drop some hints.
but definitely songs coming through, albums at some point for sure, maybe in the works. Stay tuned. Stay
Yes.
tuned. Follow us, stay tuned. We're working. We're always working, so definitely um look out for that. I would definitely say building the team because we are only 4 years old now. It's crazy to say 4 years old now, but
So,
always looking for people to work with. So if the audience listening, if you are an aspiring artist, aspiring beat maker, producer, graphic designer, um, everything you can think of that would be of an asset to a label, a part a business.
so on that note, we have come to the end of the episode, and it was really great having such insightful conversation. Like, it didn't feel like we were having podcast. It was like we were sitting and we were just asking you random questions.
Also, you have an interesting song.
Oh,
So
yes. Yes, I remember that. Yes. So in my initial video, the song that I put was from OAL Entertainment called Shout. Yes, and I'm gonna link that. I'm gonna definitely link that song.
of the intro, there's a full version on the link.
I really like that song actually. I listen to it like on a loop at times. I like be my only shout. Then I don't know.
It's definitely a vibe. That song itself took some time to complete it, but was worth the wait. And I'm glad to hear that you liked it. I hope everybody listening and yeah, everybody listening will enjoy it as well when they get to listen to the full version. And also just the intro itself. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, how did you feel being a part of this episode?
It's been great. It's been great. Like I said, and people probably back home also will notice, like beginning a little, a little camera shy, and then as time progressed, got more comfortable and got my natural habitat, my natural state. But no, it's been great. Last time I was on a podcast was, I believe, in 2022, so it's been 3 years, I think, almost
Wow.
3 years. Yeah, so it's been a while. That's why I'm like, especially on
Little
Zoom.
rust.
Yeah, a little rusty, especially on Zoom, I like to have that human interaction as well. So
Well, this is low budget production, so
hey, we'll take what we can. But
yes,
it's a great episode. I enjoyed being on here. You guys definitely subscribe, share, like, comments. Let
yes.
us know. Let us
So
know.
love to OAL Entertainment and also to my podcast channel. And yeah, we will keep on growing. I think we will see more beats coming in from your side and more episodes coming from my side. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for taking out your time and being, having this conversation with me. Thank you so much and
What she said was like,
share.
share, and
Right.
subscribe. And
Yes. Link down below for OAL Entertainment and
switch on the notifications for
yes.
new.
Yes.
Come on, guys. You know the deal. Come
Yes,
on.
I mean, everybody knows the drill. And yeah, thank you so much on that note. Toodles and wait for another episode to drop. So bye. Say bye, Jeffrey.
Bye.